Hey guys, it's me again, Orcslayer. Whatever where we last left off, let's see. Checking. Yujiro met Inko. Inko had Deku. Deku was trained by Yujiro and spent some time with him. He then tried to fight Yujiro and got his butt handed to him. Then he knocked Yujiro out after Yujiro tries to kill Inko. Deku and his mom then got out there and essentially started anew, like out of the city and such. Yujiro doesn't know where they went, and nor does he really care. He sees that even with minimal supervision or such from himself, Deku took him down, quote unquote. He doesn't know how long he was out. He just knew when he woke up, he saw the captain. I'll just call him Captain, because I know that's what his rank is. But he saw Captain, and then he's like, "Huh? What's this?" As he got up and just went on with business. At that same time, Deku and Inko got out of there, but what they did instead is that they started a new life. Deku is now around 16? Yeah, I believe he's 16, maybe 15. Yeah, he was 15 when Yujiro and him fought. So now he's 16 since... he's 16 now since, he known Bako for a year. Has officially asked her out on a date, so good for him. So I'll give you some insight on what Deku does for that year he's there. He and Inko takes up part-time, she's pretty much full-time working at, she pretty much went downgraded, you could say, from her other house, since Inko did send the money. Not Inko, Yujiro did. What she did was that she just started working again at bars and such. It's one of the main things she knows. She didn't get the best education, you could say. So she mainly worked around at bars and such. She even worked as a bouncer a couple of times. Since probably a lot of guys wouldn't see that a woman like Inko, she's much more muscular in this and such, and taller even. If she was to stand at a height, she's 5'11". So she's almost 6 foot. So yeah, she is a very tall woman. Still a lot smaller than All Might or even Yujiro. But yeah, anyways. As what Deku does is that he tried to talk with his mom about him getting a part-time job, but she pretty much adamantly said no, focusing on schoolwork. That's the end of that. Deku was like, alright. As he stayed quiet. But what she doesn't know is that he works in a warehouse. And he essentially is the heavy lifter. Anything that they need moved, he pretty much does it. He has done quite a lot. And it's also exercise or training for him, as he puts on large amounts of weight on himself as he has to put all the stuff away. Deku also trains vigorously on his own. Where they are near some wooded areas and such. So he heads into those woods to an area where he goes by himself to just train. Where he has that stuff is that there's logs, entire trees that have been punched down, and that he uses as weightlifting and such. They aren't very good, but whatever works. And he punches trees without activating his quirk. And when he's not out there punching shit, he's lifting up shit and working his muscles and such, and he's going on hours of runs. He operates on very little sleep. At most, the least he's the smallest amount of time he slept in a day was 4 hours. Maybe like 6 or 4 hours is like the least he's slept on. I know that isn't much for that isn't like that small for a few people every now and then. But take this consideration, like out of an entire week, he does that like at least 4 to 3 times a week. 4 to 3 times a week, yeah. And then that's, yeah. As in, for the rest of that time, he typically tries to get like a lot more sleep, aka he's falling asleep either in between classes or on breaks. No, his grades are good and such, so he doesn't have to worry about that. And as for like how we gain attraction for Bakugo, like I said, he like the Yujiro people typically, well, not Yujiro, but the Hama, from what I can tell, typically like strong women. So he found attraction in Bakugo when one day he saw her take on 6 other delinquents from a rival school. I use rival in a loose term. But essentially what happened one day is that they all just got into a huge fight. And it was pretty much her versus the 6 of them. As she took them all down with difficulty, but she was still able to do it. As Deku's like, And what attracted to him is that she didn't, like, waver or anything like that. She just stood her ground and, well, she just pretty much held her ground. Receiving minimal damage, but she was able to take him down. So, As 1 week later, essentially, now Bakugo's like, as Bakugo's getting ready that day, she's like, as she's looking in the mirror, she's like, oh, wait. As she's like, oh, son of a... As she, like, screams, son of a bitch. In, like, the middle of the day. Mitsuki's like, what are you shouting about? She's like, it's none of your business. As she's thinking to herself, I forgot today is the day. She's like, there's no way he's gonna go through with it, right? She's like, wait a second. As she's like, as she puts on a bit of makeup, bit of perfume, and makes herself look more, I don't want to say decent, but I would guess that's the best way to put it. Like, she makes herself look better. She typically puts in a little effort every day, but she kind of went a bit further. She, like, instead of, like, having her hair all, explosive, as it typically would, like, her hair is longer, and she, like, didn't keep it combed. So, but today, she, like, pretty much combed it down, and such. She's like, as she's looking in the mirror, she's like, I hate this. So, you know what? As then she just gets her hair back to normal. It's like, he can deal with it. She walks out of the house somewhat confident, as Mitsuki and her dad are like, huh? As they notice that, she's like, well, she seems happy? I think she's nervous. Mitsuki's like, you think it's the day? Her dad's like, better not be, as she just looks down at the paper or whatever. Well, his dad, Bakugo's dad in the original thing is a graphics designer, I believe. I believe that's what he is. Anyways, what Deku in this case is doing is he remembers, he's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. As he also has this like moment where he's looking over like his thing, and their bathroom is very small compared to like Deku's height and such. Like I said, he's like up to his dad's chin, and in this, his dad's 7'2" or 7'4". So he's around over like close to 7 foot. If not, he's just barely reached there. No, not just barely, he's like, I think his dad's head is kind of big-ish. So Deku's like around 6 something. Like 6'10", maybe? 6'10" or like 6'11" sounds like a decent amount. So as Deku like has to somewhat crouch, like squat down to like get a look at his hair, he's like, As Deku's hair is much like Yujiro's in this. Deku doesn't have the short, scruffy hair. He has the like long, flowing locks that his father has. So he gets a brush and brushes it down. As he like has to, he asks his mom for like some like tips on how to keep long hair down. As she just pretty much helps him as she brushes it down. He's like, thanks. She's like, no problem. Is there a reason why you're brushing it down now? He's like, I asked someone else. She's like, what's her name? It's like, Bakugo Katsuki. She's like, it'd be interesting to meet him again. Well, to meet her, he's like, I don't want to bring her home just yet. Like, just wait a bit of time, please. As she's like, alright then. As she leaves, she's like, I'm probably going to be out late tonight. She says, come home at least around 7 or 8. Have that girl home by whatever her time is. He's like, you got it. She's like, alright then. As she like walks over, gives him like, gives him like a quick peck on the cheek and say, and keep your hair like that. It actually looks nice. As what Deku has done, as he's like combed it, and his mother wanted to do like other things, like maybe braid it or something, like make it look nice. He's like, I'm good, thanks. As he just has brushed it back and keeps it like nice and combed, and actually looks like a bit better kept. He took care of his hair before, but not like today. As eventually school rolls around, and eventually Bakugo sees him in the halls. As they walk past each other, she sort of looked down, he looked up. He's like, as he is pretty chill, but he's also very nervous. This is like a mix between Yujiro's swag, I'll say, like his confidence in himself, but he's also very nervous, because Deku has never dealt with women before, so it's a roller coaster of emotions for him. As eventually, when Bakugo's like offered to go to the arcades or something with some of her friends, like delinquent friends or her gang, she's like, I got something else to do. She's like, what is it? It's like, none of your damn business. As they're like, oh, alright, Bakugo, no need to get angry. As they like took a step back, she's like, as she walks, and then eventually, like, Bakugo, like, went to Deku when he was alone. It's like, she's like, meet me at, as she's thought of a place, meet me here. As she gave him, like, a location. Or, you could meet me here. As he's like, okay. As when the time comes, she goes to the first place, and Deku's standing there, like, sort of leaning against the wall. He's like, alright, hey, Bakugo. She's like, Deku. They take both, like, she just gulps, and he's like, so, shall we go? She's like, yeah. Like, so, what do you want to do? She's like, you're the one who asked me. Shouldn't you have all this planned already? He's like, I have a few things in mind. Just want to make sure you're okay with it. She's like, whatever we do, we'll do. It's like, alright, I was thinking about going and checking out a movie. She's like, what movie? It's like, it's just a normal action movie. You know, nothing fancy. She's like, fine. As they go off to see the movie. It's a very good movie. They both actually like it, and afterwards they're actually talking and having a normal time, you would say. Like, just what it's like to talk with one of your friends. As Deku cracks a joke or two, and she actually laughs. Deku's like, you have a very pretty laugh. She's like, what? As he's like, as he gives a snort, he's like, hey, let's go grab some dinner, and then I'll take you home if you want. She's like, that's acceptable. As then they go and have dinner. As they go to not like a very fancy restaurant, it's just like a normal run-of-the-mill restaurant. Deku has to earn a lot of money to eat out, since it takes a lot of food. Like, Deku's already massive as he is. He has to eat a lot of calories a day just to keep muscle mass and such. As with Deku, like, he is getting, like, in that year, he has grown a bit stronger than he was when he fought his father. Like, he doesn't take, like, use Yujiro's quirk. I'll explain that in a little bit. He has almost complete mastery over his first quirk, which is the glowing eyes one, which allows him to, like, get around 50% of All Might strength now. 50% of All Might strength now, so keep that in mind. And I don't know how many times, like, I've said this in a series, or every series, but I just take a note to make it a reminder for a lot of people, is that what it is that All Might's strength, like, 100% in, like, the canon timeline is not 100%. It's only, like, 100% All Might in canon. In the present canon, he was only 70% of Prime All Might. So Deku is 50% of normal All Might. Like, of All Might in the present. So 50% of All Might, that's like less than, I think that's around less than, maybe around, maybe 40, maybe 50%, not 40, like 40% about normal All Might. 4.5%, yeah. There we go. Sorry about that. But anyways, that's his strength now. As with Deku's other quirk, though, it's weird. Like I said, I'll explain the quirk in a bit. As he orders a large amount of food, she's like, "You eat a lot." He's like, "My body requires a lot of calories." As he just starts eating. As the guy comes back with the book, he's like, "Are you sure you can pay for this, Monsieur?" Not Monsieur, but just like, "Are you sure you can pay for this, sir?" He's like, "Yes." As he hands, like, a large, like, pretty much, like, a lot of money. Just a lot of money. I'm not even going to try to say how much yen it is. But just taking this fact, it's a lot of money. As the waiter's like, "Thank you, sir." So he gives a bow, and he's like, "And have a nice night." As the waiter walks away, he's like, "Alright, let's get going, I guess." As then he takes her home. As when they reach, like, where she's like, "I can go on from this point." As she starts to walk away, he's like, "See you later, Bakugo." She's like, "Hey, this was fun. If you ever want to do it again, just say something." He's like, "Alright, I'll talk to you in a while, Bakugo." She's like, "Call me Katsuki." He's like, "See you in a while, Katsuki. Call me Izuku if you want." She's like, "Sure." As first name basis unlocked. Anyways, as Deku returns home a little bit later than what he was supposed to, but it was fine overall. As he lays down his head and just dreams. As then he wakes up, like, in the middle of the night. He's like, "What time is it?" As it's almost sunrise. He's like, as he gets up, puts on some exercise clothes and just goes for a run. As he puts on several weights on himself, like just like several weights, like a weight vest, weight on legs, a weight on arms, stuff on that. And he puts them around over with his quirk. Like I said, with his quirk not activated, he could lift. He like can compete in normal strongman competitions. So he puts on a lot of weight for his weight vest and all that. As he's running, you can hear like thud, like just bumpa, bumpa, bumpa. As then sometimes he makes a crack in the ground where he steps. As he's running, he's like, as he's already ran a couple of miles, like a few miles within like a couple of minutes. Well, not a couple, like he's ran at least 10 miles in the span of 5 minutes, I'll say. Oh no, that's quite a bit from what I can tell, like in 5 minutes. So, yeah, he's like speeding off. And like I said, not using his quirk at all. His family is impressive and unique. As when he takes a moment to like stop, as he's like, as then he thinks back to that night when he fought his father. When he was about to kill Inko. He's thinking to himself, how did I do that? As Deku has no idea how to release that thing. It's just like whenever he feels a large amount of emotions at once, not at once, but a large emotion in particular, it could sort of force it into action. So for instance, when he was feeling that, like when he used it against Yujiro the first time, he felt the overwhelming urge to defend his mother. He didn't want to kill his father, he just wants to defend people. As then when he grabbed Yujiro's hands and such, when he struck him, he struck with like this power of a god, essentially. And what Yujiro would say is that that's one of the few times in Yujiro's recent history that he has felt pain. As for when he was going to use against Katsuki, he felt this like large amount of annoyance, if not anger, as he then sort of had to simmer down. As beforehand, Deku was really good in check with his emotions, like always trying to keep calm and such. As there's been a few times where he's almost like he's activated power. Like one time he saw a bird falling out of the tree, and as then he activated to like sort of dive forward to catch it in his hands. Like in this, like it's an urge, like an overwhelming urge that forces the quirk into action. As when he's not like, as well as punching trees and hardening his body while he's out there, he's trying to force the power to come out. Now at the moment, what he can do with that power is squeeze out at least 10 to 20% of Yujiro's power and force it into action without having like a strong emotion having to force like it completely. He's also like 20%, like 15 to 20% is his max. Like his body cannot take any more. And while he's using that, he has a harder time controlling his other quirk as well. So when he tries to force them to mingle together, it's a very hard thing to do, especially with it boosting his power so much. As when he forces both quirks to work in tandem, when he first did it and combined it into use a punch, he knocked down like close to a dozen trees and like sent a large powerful wind blast, you could say, forward, but at the cost it pretty much broke his hand. Now, of course, when it comes to Baki characters, broken bones heal within a matter of days. So for Deku, his hand was all good by the time, like, he... by the time, not just like within 3 days. Not by the time of anything. As he looks down and just thinks about that for a moment, then keeps running on. And then he returns home, gets a shower, goes to school. And this is kind of his life for several months. like to 6 months, as he's constantly upping his training, as he doesn't seek to beat anyone into, like, beat down on anyone like Baki does. Like, Baki goes out searching for a fight every other day. I think in, like, the first thing you see of Baki, if I remember, is that he tries to fight 100 street fighters by himself. As with that being said, Baki and such is still training, like his training as he does in the anime. Well, in the first anime, I guess. As I'll come up with a definite date, a definite age for Baki right now. He's around 12. Well, yeah, I'll think 12 is a good age for Baki. Around 12 or 11, yeah, between that time. Sorry for that long pause. But, around the age of 12 and 11 is definitely a good age range, I'd say. But anyways, as I continue forward, what Deku does is the what was it? Oh yes, he, like I said, he constantly trains. Every now and then, like, he'll not go looking for a fight, but when he's on his ways home and such from work, he sometimes comes around a couple of delinquents or even a few yakuza members, as he has to pretty much put them down, like, in a way, like he defeats them. As one time a yakuza member, after feeling insulted by Deku, as the guy says, "Who are you, kid?" As he, like, gets the Bakugo mannerism, original Bakugo mannerism, as he tries to step on Deku, until this guy just realizes he's much bigger than me. I think he's almost as big as when he's about to say something, Deku does this. He activates his quirk and flicks him right, like, sort of gets his, like, 2 fingers and flicks the guy under the chin, knocking him out instantly and actually sending him in the air kinda a little bit. He comes down to the ground. Deku says, "Don't aggravate the wrong people. Others might have killed you if you've done that to anyone else," as he walks away. As the guy's friends or whatever, like, "Hey," as the guy's like, "Oh," they're like, "Hey, who was that?" He's like, "I don't know, but he sure is strong. Might actually be able to go from, like, I've never seen anyone toss a guy up like this with just his fingers. I think he may actually be able to go with Hanayama." Clap, clap. Anyone who knows Hanayama, put in the comments. Anyways, as Deku just, heads home eventually. That being said, what happens next for a couple of months is this. He's constantly, after that little incident with the Yakuza, he's constantly harassed by others. Sometimes they're big guys, like, wanting to, like, show a bit of strength, and other times they're just, like, low-ranked nobodies who want to prove they're tough. Deku, in the end, just avoids the streets he typically finds them at, to a point that he just runs home sometimes, as it's just too annoying to keep on dealing with them, and he doesn't want the Yakuza getting on his ass. And the Yakuza in this aren't as much of a dying breed, or whatever, as much as they are in the original. There's still a very small group considering the rest of them, but, like, the Hanayama group is one of the ones who are stronger in the sense. They also stick to, like, the very strict code that Hanayama has. As when it comes to Deku, he eventually hears that there's this giant guy that just wanders through their territory, beating up his underlings. It eventually catches the eyes of the giant and the god of strength, or I think he was called the god of pit fighting or something. No. the greatest Japanese street fighter. There we go. As Deku's walking home one day after a nice date with Bakugo, he's like, so annoying. As he steps next to an alleyway and sees a couple of Yakuza members who appear there, as then he's like, I don't know. As then he walks the other way, then there's more. As he goes back and forth, I believe Hanayama, by the time you get to the first anime of Baki, I think he's 17? Maybe 18 is how old he is. I may be wrong. Hang on, I'll check that up real quick. Alright, sorry about that. Hanayama, by the first anime, Baki the Grappler, is actually 15 or 16 years old by the first anime. Yep, 15 or 16. So, around the same age as Deku. As Deku's walking down, like, streets, he just eventually, he's like, they got me all trapped. As he starts taking off his work shirt, as it's one provided by the company, he puts it in his, like, little backpack or whatever, and sets it to the side as he cracks his knuckles. He's like, as he lets out, like, pretty much shouts, anyone out there lurking in the shadows, come out now. If you're all gonna jump me, do it now. As he cracks his knuckles. As eventually a bunch of Yakuza members having the baseball bats, a few samurai swords, knives, brass knuckles, and a few of them are just, like, openly using their quirks. He's like, is this all of you? As they're like, what, you scared, kid? Deku's like, lets off a sort of a smile similar to Yujiro's. If, like, he lets everyone see his pearly whites. He's like, kind of the opposite. I have complete faith in my abilities. The fact that none of you can come at me one-on-one displays the lack of faith in your own. As he says so, who's first? As one guy says, bastard! As he comes running out after Deku, as then he slices, trying to, like, slice Deku with the knife, as Deku just dodges and just chops the guy on the back of the head, setting him down gently. Deku says, as he starts walking forward, he says, I don't fight people unless I have to. Most of the people who have come at me have sought to land the first blow. They merely missed. He walks forward as all the guys are sort of backing up a little bit, but a few of them are like, what are you standing around for, you little bitches? Get in there! As some of the bigger guys with what Deku presume as hardening or even just like quirks that go with their size, and a few times he's right. Like one guy is able to pretty much control the earth. Another guy is able to breathe fire, and another guy pretty much has what you would call air pressure and such. As the guy's tries to breathe fire on Deku, he dodges, as then he moves to the guy who controls earth. As he tried to capture Deku's foot, Deku merely raised his foot up and smashed him, kicked him in the face, like a roundhouse kick. Deku then moved forward to palm strike the guy in the fire breather. Yujiro taught Deku a few martial arts, or the few basic, like palm strikes, karate chops, stuff like that. Like how to grab somebody and such. And the fist that Yujiro makes himself. As Deku uses most of these, and he has refined them to a point. He just really doesn't seek the reason to use them. He never, like I said, he doesn't go looking for fights. The fights come to him. As he takes down all the Yakuza members over a span of an hour. And by the end of it, he isn't unscathed, because at one point, a yakuza member took a sword and sliced him right on the back. As Deku felt this, he spun around and backhanded the guy with his fist. But he didn't deliver with the same force Yujiro did, as Yujiro would have. He merely hit the guy so hard he was knocked out, and a few teeth were lost. But it didn't completely destroy the guy's jaw. A few of the guys just simply, like, after seeing that display, they literally just dropped their weapons like, alright, you got what you wanted, man. We'll leave you alone. As Deku walks over, picks up his bag, and walks out of there. Walking home with a bunch of blood on him and several cuts on him. As he gets home and starts wiping the stuff off with a wet rag, Inko comes in. She's like, "What did you do?" He's like, "Nothing. Others came after me and fought me. I responded in kind. Don't worry, none of them are dead. I'm not like Dad in that sense. Dad would have probably killed them if he thought they were worthy." And she's like, "What did you think?" He's like, "They had numbers on them, and a few of them did have a few decent quirks. And some of them did seem to have more refined movements when it came to using weapons. Overall, it was pretty good fight, I'd say, for them. For me, it was pretty easy. A few scratches and stuff like that is much." As then also, during that fight, Deku saw a flash. As in later on, when he gets to school, everyone's like looking at him, going like, "That's him." He just hears a bunch of whispers. As when he gets to class, it's like, Mr. Izuku, as then he's about to finish the sentence, pretty much the principal walks in and says, "We want to ask you about this," as they're in class and they just pretty much rolled a TV as like a big TV and such. As he's like, "Is this you?" As then it shows Deku pretty much beating down on the yakuza members and such. It's like, as Deku's thinking, "This ain't good." He's like, "Now, would you explain to me why you're out that late?" He's like, "I was returning home from work." He's like, "Well, scratch what I said about him doing this in class. He was asked to go." As everyone in class, even Bakugo arrived late. As then she looked at what everyone else was looking at. As then she, sort of took a double take as she's like, "What?" As they saw him beating down on Yakuza members, getting sliced in the back, then the backhand, and then they eventually even saw all the people who surrendered. In the news and such, there's a few people like local unknown civilian takes on a huge Yakuza gang. As with that being said, Deku's called to the principal office and thus gets asked the same questions. It's like, "Why didn't you report this to the authorities?" He said, "What's the point in doing that? It's like they attacked me, and pretty sure they won't be attacking anyone else anytime soon, at least." As they say, still, the police have seen this, and they got a clear image of your face. They would like for you to fill out a report and see if any of these guys match any descriptions you know. As he's like, "Alright." As some of you may think, if you know Baki, well, what makes it so different that for some cases like Hanayama and such are still allowed to walk around? And if the fact that they aren't as powerful as they were beforehand. Well, the reason why is because they are extremely powerful. Even compared to people with quirks, their power exceeds most of them. As people compare Hanayama, if they know about him, to heroes like Strong Arm. Some people try to compare him to All Might, but most people don't even try that. Think that they don't know who Hanayama is, nor do they know how strong he is. But everyone, when it comes to All Might, says All Might wins, hands down. But for like other heroes like Strong Arm and such, who are entirely based around strength, they say that Hanayama could easily destroy them. As one time when they showed this, Hanayama was walking around, and a little kid was about to get hit by a car, like pretty much similar to how All Might saved that kid. What Hanayama did is he moved in the direction, placed his palms in front of him as the car just stopped. As the kid like got down on their hand, like sort of curled up, all they saw at the end of it is Hanayama standing there as the car was turned over. With zero effort, as when people saw it, what Hanayama did is that he didn't even take both hands. He just took one hand as he flipped it on its side. As he looked at the kid and pretty much sort of made a head signal for him to get out of the street, as the mother's like, "Thank you," he's like, as he walks by. Deku's just sitting there, is like, "Yeah, as long as you explain this to the police, we don't really care." As Deku's like, "Alright." As he eventually is allowed to return to class. Everybody's still sort of like that, worried about like being around him. Aside, Bakugo isn't even around him at this point. Like, she's sitting where she typically sits. But when it comes to like other people, like other delinquents and such that try to bully Deku, and to the point where Deku just ignored them, they don't even bully him. They don't bully anybody when he's around. As when they first see him, they're like, "Alright, let's get out of here." Until eventually Deku is able to talk to Bakugo one-on-one. As she's like, "So, when were you going to tell me you could fight entire gangs by yourself?" He's like, "I never really tested it, so I couldn't say if I could." She's like, Right. "So what the hell?" He's like, "I have a job. Like, sometimes they just attack me for no reason, and I just flick them away. I'm pretty sure none of them died." Just as Deku like has a worried expression, like, "You think?" He's like, "You didn't kill anyone, Izuku. I know it. I know you do a lot to reserve your strength, most likely. From what I saw from that, if you were using your full strength against some of those people, they wouldn't be alive. Like, that dude you backhanded, there's no way you used your full strength against him." He's like, "Yeah." But anyways, she's like, "I want your help." He's like, "What?" "Getting stronger." As she says, she wants to go to UA. She says she probably can tell that he wants to go there too. He's like, "To be honest, never really gave it much thought." She's like, "Listen, I know you've always like from the time that we've just been together, barely, I know you like helping people. So how about this? You help me train, and if we both get into UA, there we go." He's like, Alright. So, as he says, "Where do you live exactly? Like, I've always just dropped you off." She's like, "I live on that same street in this house." As he's like, "Alright, we should be coming up on summer or winter break, one of those two. We should be able to just hang out. We should be able to hang out then, and start you on an exercise or something." She's like, "Alright, good." Then she left. He's like, "Alright then." As Hanayama hears about this, and Yujiro's like, he doesn't typically pay attention to the paper and such, but it was on the news one day, as he saw, like I said, people got video of this, of a man, very tall man with long flowing green hair. As Yujiro thinks about that, looks like mine. As when Deku turned around at one point and they like zoom in and they sort of cleared it up. As we now know, this is a student at a high school known as Izuku Midoriya. He had given us full permission to share his name with them. Now, as then Yujiro just blacks that part out. So, as he lets out a smile, that's where he is. As then he takes notice of how Deku easily destroys all these people. He sort of gets not frowns, but he sort of like sorry. He takes note of how many times Deku got hit in the back by something. Like when he got slashed in the back by that katana or whatever. Hanayama, sorry for keep on saying the full name. Hanayama takes note of Deku as well, and notes that they're around the same age. He should pay him a visit. As he stands up, sort of starts walking. No, not walking, but stands up. He's like, as he says to the people around him, I've got to meet him. And they're like, yes, boss. As Deku is older, yeah. As Deku is walking, like to Bakugo's for the training and such, he knocks on the door, and it's a large door compared to a few. So he knocks on it. It's like, hello. As the woman opens up, as Deku's like, Bakugo. As he's like, wait a second. As he looks at her up and down, you must be Bakugo's or Katsuki's mother. She's like, oh, and you are Izuku Midoriya. Did Katsuki never tell you about me? She's like, wait a second. As she like pulls him close, are you her boyfriend? He's like, yes, almost like questioningly. She's like, oh well, it's good to finally meet you. As she pretty much brings him in. Hey, shit, what's his dad's name? I forget. Bakugo's dad. I'll just say Bakugo Senior, or I'll just call him Senior. Went up and found his name. It's Metsaru. Metsaru is Bakugo's dad's name. So Metsaru, looking at Deku, he's just like, he was expecting some guy maybe around Bakugo's height, maybe a bit taller or something, maybe another delinquent. But Deku looks, as he looks him up, he's like, how old are you? He's like, 16. He's like, are you sure about that? As Mitsuki's like, Mitsaru. He's like, I'm sorry, it's just, he's so tall. As Deku's like, as he rubs the back of his head, it's a pleasure to meet you. As he sticks out a hand, it's like, let me introduce myself. I'm Izuku Midoriya or Hanma. I haven't really decided on a name yet, on which one of the names I should use. It's like, oh, parents separate? He's like, you could say that. And I go, well then, Mitsuki's upstairs. Not Mitsuki, Katsuki's upstairs. Mitsuki, could you go grab her? I would like to talk with him for a sec. As Deku and him just sit down, as when Deku goes to like look for a chair to sit down in, he's like, he just says, use the couch. As he sits down on the couch, and he takes up like a bit of area, as he's like, you have a nice home. He's like, yes. Anyways, let's get down to business. What are your interests in Mitsuki? He's like, she is strong and confident. As he wasn't planning on being asked that ever. He was just like, why do you like Mitsuki? As he just says, she's strong and confident. What else? He's like, she's determined, I guess. Like, look, as Deku says, it's very weird. Alright, trust me, I don't know why, but those are the main qualities I find attractive, and she has all three in large quantities. As when they're talking, Bakugo like comes downstairs, and she's like, alright, time to go. He's like, wait, what? As then he's dragged away. He's like, pleasure meeting you. As, like I said, dragged away to the pits. As Mitsuki says, I like him. Metsaru says, I do too. As then, they just relax. As then, that's where I'm going to be ending this one off at. I hope y'all have enjoyed it. I hope y'all continue to enjoy it. And I hope y'all have a nice day, nice night, nice life.